Sure.
Congressman Dem Swalwell says he can show real evidence that the president colluded with the Russian government. But first, we'd like to hear his thoughts on the FBI spying operation against the Trump campaign. The congressman joins us. Congressman, thanks a lot for coming on.
Of course, Tucker. Thanks for having me back.
So if you found out that the Trump, you're up for re-election, of course, all members are. If you found out the Trump FBI had begun spying on you and was reading your emails and listening to the phone calls of your staff, and in fact had an advisor of yours calling back to FBI HQ and reporting what's going on in your campaign, and they said it's just for your protection, would you feel okay about that?
If they didn't have probable cause, I'd be pissed.
What would constitute probable cause?
Well, the evidence that you put forward to a judge, and the judge has to sign off on it, and that's happened mostly through this investigation. So there's
but we know that in this case,
involved.
no judge. I mean, now you just heard fresh reporting that apparently this person, this advisor, fake advisor of the Trump campaign, was doing this long before July, and maybe as early as March. I don't think there's any indication a judge signed off on that. Does that bother you?
Well, I've seen the evidence. I don't accept the premise of your question. There is a multiplicity of different individuals who saw concerning things, judges who signed off on FISA applications.
Did a judge sign off on this? I mean, I'm quoting the New York Times and the Washington Post here, and they're saying that a longtime CIA asset was spying on the Trump campaign on behalf of the Obama administration. Did a judge sign off on that?
I can't go into classified information. I can tell you I haven't reviewed this.
It's not classified whether a judge signed off on it. That's
I haven't seen anything
American. I have a right.
Yeah.
You brought it up.
You
said that a judge signed off on it, and I'm saying, is that true? Do you know that?
I haven't seen anything improper. I've seen a lot of evidence that was concerning, but what I do see that's improper is a president who is a subject of an investigation using his DOJ to look into the evidence locker. And that's wrong.
Let's make it really specific. I said we know from reporting from the New York Times.
Wait, so now you're trusting the New York Times?
No,
because you don't trust them most of the time. You don't trust them most of the time.
Look, I'm just saying, if I'm wrong, tell me. You're on the Intel Committee. They're reporting that a guy who was claiming to advise the Trump campaign was reporting back to the Obama agencies. You just said a judge signed off on that, or suggested one had.
No, on a lot of the evidence in this case, judges have signed off.
No, but on that spying operation, did a judge?
I can't say on what is being alleged. I'm just telling you all the evidence I've seen.
Do you believe a judge signed off on that?
I believe a judge has signed off on a lot of good evidence that exists in the case.
But on that specific, does that not bother you? Would you want a judge to sign off on it? If he were spying on your campaign, Trump was spying on your campaign, would you? And we don't really know whether a judge signed off on it. Would that be good enough for you?
It's a great question, Tucker. Considering
it's a great question.
All the evidence I've seen in this investigation of all the contacts that Trump's had with the Russians, I would want judges to sign off on anything that would make sure that a foreign adversary wasn't meddling in our election.
Do you care if a judge signs off on spying operations that are waged against political campaigns? Well, is that of interest to you?
I think you have to be a little more careful and understand the political consequences. But so far, I haven't seen...
What about the moral and legal consequences? Should a judge have to sign off on a spy within a presidential campaign, especially when the agency is controlled by the opposing party? Should a judge have to sign off on that?
We should trust judges to be independent, investigators to be independent. I haven't seen any evidence of impropriety yet. But I've seen a lot of obstruction.
You don't know if a judge signed off on it, and you don't care. That's the take. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I know, but I'm not going to give you classified information. I'm going to tell you.
Why would that be classified, whether a judge signed off on it? Why can't I know that?
Because I'm not going to comment on New York Times reporting of classified information. What I'm telling you is the evidence I've seen.
Happened?
The evidence I've seen, Tucker, there were very good reasons to be concerned about the contacts that the Trump campaign had.
And
I can go into that evidence.
Look, we're going to spend the whole next segment going into the evidence, and I can't wait to hear it. And if you can convince me, I'll call for indictments, and I mean that with total sincerity.
But aren't you concerned about the leaking that's taking place on this story?
I don't know. Were you concerned that the dossier was leaked? Did that bother you?
Yeah, well, I thought the dossier was the beginning of this investigation, and now you're moving it to
but look, I'm just saying, you're very upset.
And shifting.
Here, it's really simple. I'm an American.
Yeah.
If it turned out the Trump FBI was spying on your campaign, even though I don't agree with you on the issues, I would say you better have a pretty good freaking reason.
A damn good reason.
Spying, exactly. And you better have legal pretext. You better have a judge's order. But they didn't have a judge's order. You know that. But it doesn't bother you. And I'm asking why.
No. I'm telling you that I have seen a lot of evidence, a lot of contacts that the Trump team had with Russians, that judges...
But
I would be asking for them to...
no evidence that this mole was approved by a judge.
You're trying to get me to acknowledge something that we have not acknowledged yet, and I'm not going to do that.
You're hiding behind...
No. There's plenty of evidence. You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to have the access I have to be concerned.
Well, let me just say, I'm obviously not going to move you into the factual realm.
Or into the break of law realm.
As a matter... Look, if it turns out that they spy on your campaign, as God watches, I will call them out for that, because I think it's immoral.
If they didn't have probable cause...
Turned out the Trump FBI was spying on your campaign, even though I don't agree with you on the issues, I would say you better have a pretty good freaking reason.
A damn good reason.
Spying, exactly. And you better have legal pretext, and you better have a judge's order. But they didn't have a judge's order. You know that. But it doesn't bother you. And I'm asking why.
No. I'm telling you that I have seen a lot of evidence, a lot of contacts that the Trump team had with Russians, that judges...
But
I would be asking for them to...
evidence that this mole was approved by a judge.
You're trying to get me to acknowledge something that we have not acknowledged yet, and I'm not going to do that.
You're hiding behind...
No. There's plenty of evidence. You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to have the access I have to be concerned.
Well, let me just say, I'm obviously not going to move you into the factual realm.
Or into the break a law realm.
Look, if it turns out that they spy on your campaign, as God watches, I will call them out for that because I think it's immoral.
If they didn't have probable cause?
Probable cause means nothing. They need a judge's order, as you just said.
The rule of law is based on probable cause.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break. In just a minute, the congressman will present his evidence that the collusion investigation is real and that the Trump campaign worked with the Putin government in order to beat Hillary Clinton in 2016. Stay where you are. Welcome back. We're still joined by Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell of California, a member of the House Intel Committee. If you've been watching cable news for the past year, no doubt you have seen the congressman talking a lot about Russia. Here's part.
Russia attacked our democracy this past election.
And then they showed up to his Trump Tower, offered the evidence to his family. They received it. They didn't turn it down. Donald Trump for years had been working with the Russians. He brought people on his campaign who had ties to the Russians.
We have seen a candidate and a president who has spoken in very flattering ways about Vladimir Putin.
All of the arrows continue to point to a personal, political, and financial relationship that Donald Trump had with the Russians.
The congressman has come on tonight. We've given him a lot of time to present to us evidence, actual evidence of collusion. Congressman, thanks a lot for coming back.
Yeah, of course, Tucker.
So Trump said in the campaign, I want to bring us closer to Russia. A lot of people agree. I certainly agreed with that. A lot of people on his campaign.
Why? Why did you agree with that?
Because as a geopolitical matter, I think the enemy is China, and I think we have.
Can we have more than one enemy?
Sure, absolutely, but I just think I don't agree with their posture, aggressive. I don't agree with the Trump administration's posture toward Russia right now. Actually, it's too bellicose. Whatever, but that's a legitimate point. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't make you a traitor. But is there actual evidence? I've followed this pretty carefully. Where's the actual evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Putin?
So, 2014, 15, 16, Russians hack into our DNC. They weaponize social media. 2015, they make what I think is the first approach that we know. So Felix Sater, Russian-American, former business partner with Donald Trump, approaches Donald Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, and says, let's get Donald Trump to build a Trump Tower in Moscow.
Right.
We can engineer this, get Trump and Putin together, and make our boy president. So that's the first known approach. So the hacking's going on, and you start to see these different approaches. And there's two different types of approaches. There's the approaches to get Trump and Putin together, which is unusual because he's a candidate. And then there's the approaches to preview the hacked emails that the Russians have against Hillary Clinton. So you see that offer made to George Papadopoulos while he's over in London by a Russian. He lied about that. He pled guilty to lying, admitted that it occurred. You see the approach with the June 9th meeting, the Agalarov family, Russian developers close to Putin, trying to get Trump and Putin together. They offer, dirt on Hillary Clinton. That June 9th meeting, they move heaven and earth, Donald Trump Jr. and Paul Manafort and Kushner, to take the meeting, right? Donald Trump, days before the meeting occurred, once his son knows the meeting's happening, tells the world new information's coming out about Hillary Clinton. Days after the meeting, Julian Assange tells the world that Hillary Clinton emails are coming out. Then you start to see the hacked emails released. What does candidate Trump do? He doesn't disavow them. No one in the family says we had taken these meetings. Instead, he invites the Russians on a public stage to hack more.
So I think you're talking about his
press
conference. He did. So I think we have that. This is July 27th, 2016, at the Doral National, which he owns in Doral, Florida. Here's the clip you're talking about.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press. Let's see if that happens.
Two questions.
He was rewarded.
One, do we have the 30,000 emails? Did Russia ever come up with those?
We're still...
no, they didn't actually.
But you know that for a fact?
Well, we haven't seen them.
Yeah. Well, let's let the Mueller investigation continue.
Okay, maybe Mueller's in contact with the Russians, but Trump didn't come up with those from the Russians, so that didn't happen. But let me ask you this: if Trump was going to,
there's still an attempt there, right?
Okay, but
you can attempt to do something and fail, and it could still be a crime.
But would you do? I mean, I hate to inject common sense into this.
Would you do it in broad daylight?
If you were trying to make secret contact with Russia, your handlers back in Moscow, wouldn't you dial them up in the shortwave in the basement? Would you really send a coded message in the middle of a joke at a press conference?
I'm not saying he's the smartest guy in the world, Tucker. Never accused him of that.
That's the smoking gun right there.
That's part of the evidence. An invitation made by the candidate.
At a press
telling him
conference.
It's okay.
Okay, but
he's not
that
the
was
smartest guy
on television.
In the world.
Okay, so he's both a secret agent for Putin, but he's so dumb that he spills his secrets at a press conference on TV.
The latter.
Okay.
So he makes an invitation. He doesn't disavow what they're doing.
But
so what
Russians
do? They start to do more.
Give him the 30,000 emails.
They start to do more. They start to hack more. And so
you heard the people laughing at the end of what he said, right?
He's broadcasting. He's committing, the offer in broad daylight.
Russia,
sure.
Why wouldn't he just act through all the many Russian agents?
So let me continue. So at the same time,
but those are fair questions, right? It's a little confusing.
Completely fair questions.
So what's the answer?
But there's no. Hey,
why would he do it in public?
Why did he admit to Lester Holt obstruction of justice in public? There's no who could be so stupid they commit the crime in public exception. He did it.
Has any secret agent ever broadcast a message at a press conference to his handlers ever?
Has any businessman ever been elected president? Sometimes you're the first person to do it. So Tucker, again, he made the invitation.
Okay.
Makes the invitation in public, right? Then you start to see during the summer of 2016, we have an email that is titled Kremlin Connection. An offer made to Paul Erickson of the campaign to connect Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin again.
Okay.
Kremlin connection, right? So again, more and more
Did they connect?
offers.
Do we have evidence that he talked to Putin?
I don't believe that they connected. But again,
so where's the smoke? Where's the evidence? I mean, I know all this stuff. But where's the evidence?
Well, first, Tucker, don't confuse evidence with a conclusion. Evidence gives the FBI and the Department of Justice.
Gun? Look, I've been going through this for a year. Look, I watch Rachel Maddow. I get it. I know there are a lot of Russians and Russian people in emails, but where's the actual proof that something happened after more than a year of this?
Well, I'm not the prosecutor. I don't have subpoena power. Bob Mueller does. All I'm saying is
you do have a high-level security clearance, and you're on the Intel Committee, so presumably you'd have more than a clip of him at a
I'm only giving you the evidence that I've seen in an unclassified manner. So I'm telling you that all of that warrants looking at whether we could prove beyond a reasonable doubt conspiracy to defraud the United States.
But
those are the
aren't
crimes.
we working on that? I mean, we've been working on that for a long time.
Well, not with the obstruction that we continue to see. The continued undermining, the trying to...
So that's it? That's all you got?
No.
Okay, so what's the part I haven't heard? Tell me. I'm waiting. Because I want to... Look, if he's...
It's right in front of your nose, Tucker.
Tell me what it is.
It's right in front of your nose.
Is it another press conference he gave with more secret messages, or tell me?
Again, Tucker, when we look back on this in 25 years, we're going to be amazed at how much of it was right in front of us. So, they're hacking...
We're all speaking Chinese at that point.
There's
and we're like, people thought Russia was the threat. Isn't that weird?
There's approaches. They never turn down any of the approaches. The candidate makes an invitation in broad daylight, as you said. They continue to try and arrange meetings through the summer. And then you start to have what I call, if there's a quid pro quo, there has to be a quo, right? If there's a transaction that's taking place, you start to, of course, there's the candidate's positive, favorable statements about Putin, even if those are just, as you said, so we have a better relationship with Russia. How do you explain the national security advisor, the incoming national security advisor, Michael Flynn, who had been over to Russia just a year before, telling the Russians, don't worry about the Barack Obama imposed sanctions? How do you explain that?
I would explain it this way.
How do you explain bringing the Russians into the Oval Office, giving them national security secrets?
Here's what I would hope, that we would stop with the sanctions on Russia. I think they're counterproductive. But the Trump administration has done just the opposite. So we spent Javelin missiles to the Ukrainian rebels. We've opened up domestic oil production here, which hurts them, and gas production. We have killed over 200 Russians in Syria. We have bombed the government of Bashar al-Assad, which is their closest ally outside their borders. In what sense has he been pro-Russia as president? And I say this with sadness, because I don't think he should be doing any of that.
Yeah, well, all the favorable things that he says. Bringing Russians into the Oval Office, kicking out Americans, letting Russian press...
Could we just be reality-based really quick?
And failure to impose the congressionally passed sanctions. You know how hard we had to work, the public sentiment that was...
What about killing the 200 Russians? He's been
Did he kill them?
He sent the U.S. military
I think you're giving him too much credit.
I don't know. Look, I'm not flacking for Trump. I don't think he should have done it. I criticized him on the show.
You're absolutely right.
I'm just telling you, he's killed 200 Russians. Obama did not do that. He sent missiles to Ukrainian rebels. Obama did not do that. He is competing in energy with them in a way Obama never tried. Why is he more pro-Russian than Obama was?
Don't confuse what he has to do because the public sentiment is so high in Washington. Again, you give him too much credit. You're giving him too much credit.
I'm not giving him credit. I'm criticizing him. I don't think he should be doing any of it. I'm just saying this whole thing is insane. That's what I'm saying.
So, and then you have all the consciousness of guilt evidence, right? All of the lies that have been told, whether it was about the June 9th meeting, the Russian adoption excuse, and then moving it to what it was really about. So that's consciousness of guilt. A lot of times the way someone acts after an investigation is launched can tell you what they were doing. I
guess. I'm not, you know what, I'm not clairvoyant. Maybe that's
don't confuse evidence with a conclusion. There's more than enough evidence to continue and find out how close are these ties. Did the willingness and eagerness add up?
I was hoping for something. We're going to take a break right now. We'll continue our conversation with Congressman Eric Swalwell of California. We'll be right back.